publicly expose the lies of living and be rid of sin's control. But, fear of what others would think kept me convinced that it could never get out. But what really happened, to my amazement and joy, was that when these things finally did come out, I got to the place where I couldn't run anymore. And all my shortcomings and sins were exposed. The fear, the anxiety, the sense of hopelessness turned out to be nothing more than a flimsy lie or a smoke screen, that the devil was using to keep me silent and coming back for more. I also learned that I could not produce my own righteousness. I believe that it is manifested in my life when I truly let go of things that I cannot control and simply believe. Abraham believed in God, that God would provide when he was on the mountain with his son Isaac. He didn't know when or how God would provide, and he was just content to know that God would. His belief led to an action, and it was credited to him as righteousness. I spent a good part of my earlier years trying to do it the other way around, hoping that my actions and my self-driven willpower would eventually lead me to a life of true belief. And that just does not work. That just does not work. So what I want you to understand more than anything, whoever's listening, hears my voice, is that God is a God of restoration. What I've learned from my own life is that he does not want to expose those hidden things in your life so that you will suffer embarrassment and shame, but so that you will know what true freedom is. He also desires to have a personal relationship with you. He is reaching out to you, and I urge you, if you haven't already done so, to embrace his Son, who is full of compassion, mercy, and grace. He is the true light, my friend, and in him there is no darkness at all. You guys still with me?
Yes, we are.
We are.
All right. Sorry to get a little preachy there, but that's
all right.
Where I'm at right now.
That's all right.
So I would like to do a turn right now to talk about my physical ability, or disability, I should say. And Trish already touched on what it was, and so I'll just go back to the very beginning. In 2003 was when I got the diagnosis, and I do have to say at this point that that's when I got the diagnosis, but I do believe that my life has always been touched by ataxia in some form or another. It just, might have been laying dormant and was discovered later on in life, but I was never a kid that had real great balance. I was labeled as a klutz, kind of clumsy. There was a lot of things I didn't do, a lot of things that I came to late in life. I didn't learn to ride a bike until way past the time that all my friends were doing it, that kind of thing. But so what happened in 2003 was that my spatial perception was off, and by that I mean I was walking into door frames. I was missing, I just sideswiped stuff. I was missing it. So we went to the family doctor, and I was thinking that, of course my mind was not going anywhere beyond, this is probably just a inner ear infection or something. I mean, my balance is off a little bit. He'll give me some pills, and I'll be fine, right? Because I was always kind of a happy-go-lucky guy, and I didn't, your mind just doesn't go there. You just don't think about that this could be something that's more serious than it is. So the family doctor just did a cursory check, kind of along the line of the same kind of thing they would do as a police officer would pull you over suspecting you driving while intoxicated. He had me walk a line and stand on one foot and touch my nose with my fingers, and I failed every one of them. I couldn't stand on my feet on one foot for more than about half a second before I started tipping. And at that point, we just thought it was funny because, again, you don't think this is anything potentially serious. So we were just going to make light of it, Well, I think the family doctor suspected what might be going on, and he sent me to a neurologist. And the neurologist, if you don't know, is a specialist that has to do with brain and how your body functions in that way. And so, again, even though I was going to a neurologist, it just did not strike me as anything serious. Doctors are referring you to specialists all the time. You might have a sore throat, you go see an ear, nose, throat doctor. So I didn't think anything about it. But this doctor, this neurologist, he did more of a thorough exam. And he strongly suspected what was going on. In fact, he ordered a MRI of my head. And then he sent me, along with those images, to another neurologist at a university hospital who was a little bit more of a specialist, I guess, just to kind of confirm what he suspected was going on. And it was there that I got the news that it was cerebral ataxia. And since I have learned that it's actually spinal cerebral ataxia, which is SCA, because basically the nature of it is the cerebellum is affected, and that's called the small brain that sits underneath the main brain. And it controls all the muscles and nerves, all the motor functions, and it is directly linked to the spinal column. That's why a lot of people have problems with their walk and gait, because the body is no longer getting those messages that your brain is saying that these things can and should be easily done, and your muscles are just not getting that message, and so it can be rather frustrating. And I just remember that when we got that news, we were just kind of, my wife and I were just kind of shell-shocked. We'd never heard of ataxia before. I should mention that the neurologist, when he told me, he watched me walk down the hallway, and then he just proclaimed, in 5 to 10 years, you will be in a wheelchair. And that's a stunning, shocking thing to hear. I'd never heard of ataxia. The prognosis did not look very good. So, but then I kind of went through a time when I did not accept what he told me, and I continued to work. And I can look back on that time now and honestly say that I think the big reason why I am not in a wheelchair right now, it's been, 12 years, the big reason is because I refuse to give up. And I have told people before that had I accepted that prognosis of 5 to 10 years and just kind of given up mentally, then I probably would be in a wheelchair right now. But I didn't, and I worked up until 2012 as a custodian for a school district. And I think that's got a big factor as to why I'm not right now. So anyway, once he gave me that diagnosis, he sent me back to the first neurologist. And the first neurologist then put me through a whole bunch of tests. They were testing for a form of ataxia that's called Friedrichsberg ataxia. And what that is a form of ataxia that attacks a person's heart. And eventually your heart is going to stop beating because the heart just fills up with calcium deposits. The underlying factor for all ataxia is the cerebellum, But from there, that's a gateway that can cause all sorts of problems in people, and there's many different forms. And Friedrichsburg is a hereditary form, and there was family history on my dad's side of Friedrichsburg, and so that's why they decided to test me for that, because they thought more likely that's what I've got. Well, so they did a bunch of testing on my heart and found nothing there. They did the nerve induction, they did genetic history, they checked vitamins, all this stuff. They didn't really have a clue as to what is causing it. And in some respects, it doesn't really matter what causes it, because every form of it is untreatable. There's nothing they can do, and so you're really just finding out a specific type, kind of for your own knowledge. But so I had to learn to look beyond myself and beyond my diagnosis. My MRI, I had another MRI 5 years after the original one. It showed that my cerebellum right now is at about 40% capacity. And what that means is, you've got a picture of the cerebellum, which is roughly the size of, maybe a baseball. And that whole thing should be filled with the gray matter. And when you look at mine, there's about 2/3 of the space is just black. There's nothing there. It's kind of like when Trish was saying, they were looking at her stomach and saying that's where the baby should be, but there isn't one. Well, they look at my cerebellum and they say that's where it should be, but there isn't one there. So, but I've really come to believe that Ataxia is not who I am, and I have a strong hope, strong belief that there will come a day when I will be free of this physical body. I will be free of Ataxia. I started writing a blog about a year ago that I've been sharing on Facebook, the Blood Expert site. One of them is the one that Trish mentioned. And the name of the blog is it started out being just called My Life. And then about halfway through, I wrote a blog, and I changed the name to My Life with Ataxia Along for the Ride. And the reason I did that is because it just seems to go with me wherever I go. It's always bumping rides off me. I can't get rid of it. But I do believe there is going to come a day when I will be going with God, and Ataxia will not be coming along for the ride.
Amen.
Amen to that.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So, that's a big reason why I do what I do. I became I sought out a support group, because that's very important. And I started going down to a support group about 40 miles from my house, about 2 years ago. Well, here about 8 months ago, I became the leader of that group. And then next week, I will be starting another group up in Portland, which is the other direction. So I will have 2 groups going, and the foundation that I am doing this under is calling this the One Valley Support Group, and they're making both 2 groups kind of part of each other. So, and I try to stay active, which is, I believe, is the key. I volunteer for a local hospice group. I go out and make visitations, and I sit and talk on the phone in the bereavement center, talk on the phone with people. And I like I've said at the very beginning and what I've said then, I do not believe